All right, Leigh Sloan. She has a podcast, Brave Conversations. She holds a regular monthly meeting, Brave Conversations. You are an enigma to me. I don't know how to figure you out. Normally when I disagree with people, I just kind of write them off. But for some reason, you throw me enough red meat to keep me listening. I listen to your stuff all the time.
I love it.
I hear words like solutionary, right? That's a word that
Right.
your experts use all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff just pisses me off. I don't know why. It's just like, and so here's my thing, and you tell me if you disagree with me and tell me if I'm wrong. We're past the point of brave conversations. We're past the point of reasoning with the left. It's, the people who've adopted and become disciples of the ideology of leftism, they've done so because it is a self-gratifying, virtue-signaling way of living. When you become a leftist, your whole focus when you evaluate things is, how will this make me look, the positions I take? And if it makes me look virtuous, then I will take that position. And when you begin to reason with them and challenge them on their position, you are challenging them as a person, not their beliefs, them, because that's where they get their self-worth and their self-esteem, because of their virtue signaling. So to try to reason with people like that, it's just a waste of time, in my opinion. I'm not saying it'll never work, but chances are it won't. My thought is, when you're dealing with people who are currently running, say, the Anchorage Assembly, you have to defeat them. You can't waste time trying to reason with them. So that's and same with the Democrats in Washington, D.C. and the swamp creatures. A lot of these people, Leigh, they're just bad actors. They want to keep the gravy train going. They're in on the in club with the government bloat, and they benefit financially. So to try to reason with these people,
Right.
They don't like capitalism. They don't like the free market. They don't like conservatives. They don't like Christians. And that's their bent. And so they have to be defeated at the ballot box, in my opinion, not reasoned with. Do you disagree with me?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you said a lot right there. I think that we have to be careful with this eminent they. So everybody's an individual, and I think we need to think about it in terms of which they am I talking about right now. Like there are swamp creatures. They're for real, right? And they do need to be defeated. But then there's a whole group of people that are deceived, that are that think that really honestly are compassionate people that think they're on the right side of this. And so there's.
Well, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there, because I'll let you finish any thoughts you want to have. But I don't believe they're compassionate. I believe it's a false compassion. It's a self-gratification. The idea that you think that you're superior to someone and that you have to protect them from themselves and you want to rule over them because of that, that's not compassion. Now, they may think it makes them look compassionate. It's like Ethan Berkowitz when he wants to enable the vagrants. He has evaluated that as something that makes him look compassionate. It's not compassionate. It's cruel. It's cruel to enable people who are dysfunctional to continue in their dysfunction. So I would disagree with you on your delegating these people as compassionate. They may think it makes them look compassionate, but they're not compassionate.
Well, it is possible, though, you would agree, to be deceived into thinking that you're being compassionate.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I think that's probably true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we need to see it from their eyes sometimes in order to reach them. And it's not true that, or I should say, it's true that people have jumped the fence, and I think a lot of people are. I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, and people are waking up and people are jumping sides. There's the whole Brexit movement. There's a lot is happening in that way. So I think it's a two-pronged approach, but we have to know which prong we're using at which time.
Yeah, so you're saying that people who have been deceived and duped and seduced by the poisonous and deadly ideology of leftism are beginning to see the errors of their ways and are abandoning the ideology. Is that what you're saying?
I think as crazy as it starts to get, people are like, wait a second. and even people I know who are Christians and who are liberal, who call themselves liberal, they don't lump themselves in with that. So I think it's healthy to remember that.
But they hate Trump. But they hate Trump.
Maybe. Yeah.
No, they do. Come on now.
Most likely.
Let's have some brave conversations here.
Yeah.
They hate Trump.
They probably do. Yeah. We should get one on here sometime.
Yeah. Well, they're more than welcome.
All right.
Well, all right. I want to talk to you about. We're talking to Leigh Sloan, who's your podcast is Brave Conversations. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about Christians and whether they're doing their part in this civil war. And then I also want to ask you, do you agree with me, and we're going to have to take a break, but I'll ask you this on the other side of the break. Do you agree with me that the battles that we now face in this country are so insurmountable with the Democrats and the swamp and the media, all seduced and deceived and full-blown disciples of the ideology of leftism, that the only thing that will save this nation now is divine intervention? I'll ask Leigh Sloan that when we come back. Stay with us. Be right back.
Yep.
Does that really work?
Yeah, it actually does. Last time we had a conversation about faith in politics, and there was a lot of great interaction. It was great that we had it on Zoom because we could talk with people all across the country and the world.
Well, that's good, because that's what I wanted to talk to you about, faith in politics, because I'm noticing that people who are people of faith are really beginning to get engaged in politics, and they're paying attention. I don't know, 5-10 years ago, that was unheard of. But we're talking about pastors and clergy members and people who head up churches and who work in the ministry. They're actually beginning to speak out on issues that they previously were afraid to do so because they didn't want to lose any congregation members. That's an encouraging thing to me. What do you say?
It definitely is. I mean, I feel like I've felt this for so long that we needed to get out and start addressing these issues. And now they've come to the forefront and we can't ignore them. So I think that's why it's happening.
Well, we're in a situation, Leigh, as you well know, and I think this is the premise behind what you do, that it's so easy to offend people now because everybody's so heightened and super sensitive about their political beliefs. And I think a lot of people who are conservatives, I don't really find this on the left, but I think a lot of people who are conservatives remain silent for fear of offending.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
We can't continue to do that.
Right. I mean, okay, so I think where we kind of go in different directions sometimes is there's a paradox we have here. I mean, we have two paradigms. We have the paradigm of, they're both correct. The paradigm of being brave, right? And being overt and being out there with your thoughts and opinions. And we have a freedom of speech. We should use that freedom of speech. Absolutely. And then we also have the idea of wisdom and tactics and all of that. And I think I'm concerned that there are people on each side of those paradigms, and that we don't embrace both sides. I'm concerned that some people are running headlong into things that are not wise. And
when it comes to dealing, let me interrupt you, and I'll let you finish your point. But so running headlong into things that aren't wise when it comes to trying to deal with those. Okay.
Just
give me an example.
Oh gosh, I can't. I'm trying to think. Just putting things out there that are going to be divisive on purpose and not have any good repercussions from them. I mean, I can't really think of an example.
How do you know? Because anything you say to a leftist that does not condone and support their ideology is divisive. Anything.
Right.
So how do you know How do you know when you should govern that and when you should tamper that down? Because if you say there's only there's only two genders, if you say there's only two genders, then you're a hateful person in their mind. So, there are only two genders, and we know that to be true.
Right.
So, I mean, the idea, well, we don't want to be divisive, or we have to make sure we're not divisive for divisiveness' sake. How do you know? Because everything is divisive to them unless the left has zero tolerance for dissent. Zero.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm a person of faith, because, I mean, there is no cut and dried answer to that. It's called wisdom because every moment we need the Lord to help us understand what we need to do at that moment in time. I mean, you think about the people in the Bible like Gideon, Esther, Daniel. They had to have strategy equally as much as they had to have courage. And they had to have timing equally as much as they had to have courage.
So you're basically talking about having a relationship with God and leaning on Him to help guide you as you navigate your discussions with people on the left. And I agree with that, and I think that's legitimate. My concern is, though, most people err on the other side. They will not take the chance of saying anything because they fear it will offend. And my thought is, let's err on the side of, okay, maybe I'm not doing this in the most tactful, loving manner, but I'm not going to stop speaking for fear of offense, because that's why the left has gotten to the position they're in now. We're all afraid. We're all afraid they're going to call us bigots, racist, homophobe, whatever.
Yeah. And I think, we just need to continue to pursue courage and wisdom at the same time. I think that a lack of wisdom can hurt us just as much as a lack of courage can.
To be honest with you, and this is going to really make me sound like an idiot, but I think we're at such a critical stage in this nation, and we're so close to losing everything, that the notion of stopping and saying, is what I'm about to say wise? I just think we have to say it. I think we have to speak truth boldly, aggressively, and without any reservation, because we're about to lose everything. And the idea of, well, I better not say that because maybe it's not wise, maybe it'll do more harm than good. We're in the middle of heavy warfare now, in figuratively speaking. And I just don't know that we have time. I don't know that we have the luxury, Leigh Sloan, of saying, well, if I say abortion is murder, is that wise? Will that cause more harm than good? I think we just need to boldly speak truth. And not in a mean and hurtful way, but in a bold way where the deliberative process of whether this is wise or not. If it's true, speak it. To me, that should be the mandate now from those who have not been deceived and seduced by this evil, vile ideology of leftism.
Well, do you think that the strategy is just as important as the courage and just the fortitude?
Strategy is the easy part. The courage and the fortitude is the hard part.
Is it really the easy part, though, when we have ranked choice voting?
Well, it's the easy part in that, people are not by nature courageous. People by nature are not disagreeable. They're agreeable. Most people. They want to get along. They want to be liked. It's most people's nature.
Right.
And so, to me, the battle is don't allow the left to bully you. Don't be afraid to say what's true. Yeah. And to get all hung up in is this wise? Is this going to be productive? Is it true? Yes. Speak it. To me, that I think is where I come down on this issue. And I hear what you're saying, and you're probably much more online and right than I am. I'll acknowledge that. But to me, we are at such a heightened place in this country where we're so close to becoming Venezuela, Leigh. We really are. Look, people have to look around and look at the nations that have fallen. And America is not immune to this kind of stuff. Which brings me to the next question that I want to ask you. I don't think we can win this anymore. They've figured out, the left, they figured out how to steal elections. They have full control of the media. They have full control of the education bureaucracy. They have full control of the government. They have full control of the Democrat Party. They have probably about 55% of the Republicans. The left has full control of this country right now. And we're about to lose it all if Biden becomes president. My question to you is, I believe that without some type of miracle, divine intervention, and quickly, that we are going to lose this country. Do you agree with me?
Lose this country. How would you define that?
Our freedoms will rapidly deteriorate. Churches will no longer be able to meet. Businesses will no longer be able to open. Free speech will be taken away. You think what Facebook is doing right now. Wait till government gets involved. Everything that we hold dear as Americans will be stripped away from us because the left believes that the government gives rights, not God. And so they can take away the rights. Right. And so the government will begin to take away our individual liberties at a pace like we would make our head spin. Unless there is some divine intervention. We saw what happened in Anchorage. We saw the lives destroyed with the businesses shutting and the people losing their jobs. That will accelerate at such a quick pace if Joe Biden becomes president and controls all three branches of government. So, to me, without a divine intervention, we're done.
Yeah.
You agree?
Well, it's kind of always been that way, and thus the need for wisdom even more. I mean, think about Daniel in that godless environment he was in, and he was part of the cabinet, and he was the one who had to save all of them from utter demise. So I think we're always at that point where we have to rely on God, and I'm glad we're waking up to it. I think, it might have to get worse before it gets better, but I still believe that someday, either way, it's going to get better. But I don't know when.
Well, I agree with you, and I do believe that we are a nation. We are the only nation in the history of mankind that was founded for the sole purpose of religious freedoms and liberty, the freedom to worship as we wish. And that makes us special. And we stand with Israel, which I think is another important thing. And so I don't believe God's done with us. But I just hope people understand, especially Christians, that unless we begin to believe for a miracle, we will lose everything. I think we have to do our part, too. We have to have faith. And I think that's where we are.
Yeah, and we have to take our stance. I mean, we have to take our places. And I know everyone has a different place. You have a place. Your place is very overt. There are other people that are going to have more covert places. But, we're in this together. I
agree. And I think, once again, I asked you to come on the show so I can prove you wrong, but I was unable to do so. So thank you, Leigh Sloan. Check out her podcast, Brave Conversations. Leigh, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bye.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back.